Okay, this is the last video about the interface. I swear we'll start actually using Blender in the next one. Go to Edit, Preferences. The Preferences categories are listed in this left-hand side menu, with Interface at the top. The first thing you'll see is the resolution scale for the interface itself. I have this at 1.5 or 150% for these recordings, just so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. But most of the time, I leave it at the default setting, which is 1 or 100%. Whenever you see a numerical value like this, you can click and type in a new value, or click and drag left and right to increase or decrease it. If you change one of these values by accident and want to put it back to the default, but you're not sure what the default number was, just right-click and select Reset to Default Value. Something else to be aware of is the hamburger menu at the bottom left corner. If Autosave Preferences is checked, any changes you make will be saved permanently when you quit Blender. I prefer to leave this off. This way, you can make as many changes as you want, and unless you intentionally save them, everything will go back to how you had it the next time you open Blender. To do that without having to quit, click Revert to Saved Preferences. User tooltips are going to be your best friend. That's these little descriptive pop-ups that tell you what your mouse is hovering over. I've been using Blender for about a decade and I still find them useful, so I'd leave those on. If you're a coder, Python tooltips will be super handy for finding commands and values to use in a script or add-on, but otherwise you can leave that off. The only other thing I feel is worth talking about in the interface section is translation. If English isn't your first language, you can change the interface language here. Not all of the translations are perfect or complete, but it's better than nothing. Next is themes, and I'm only showing you this to illustrate the insane level of customization options Blender gives you. This drop-down menu gives you a list of pre-made custom themes. I think they're all terrible, but you might not. I don't think I've ever changed a single setting in any of these next few tabs. You're definitely safe to leave all of this alone, but if you're curious about what any of this does, use the tooltips. Add-ons are one of the most powerful features of Blender. They're basically extra tools and features that have been added on. As you can see, a whole bunch are included with Blender out of the box, and some are even activated by default. Activate and deactivate add-ons by clicking the checkbox. Click the arrow to see details about it. To see only add-ons that are currently activated, click this checkbox. Filter by category using this drop-down menu, and by officially supported or community-supported add-ons with these buttons. To install a new add-on, click Install and locate the file you downloaded. There are literally thousands more you can buy or download for free available from the Blender community. If you know Python, you can even make and sell your own. Toward the end of this series, there will be a video all about where you can find community resources including assets and add-ons. But for now, I just wanted you to know that these exist and where to find them. Input. If you're on a laptop or your keyboard just doesn't have a numpad, Emulate Numpad makes the regular number keys behave the way a numpad would. This lets you quickly switch between views in the viewport. We'll cover that in the next video. Emulate 3-button mouse lets you use Alt and left click instead of the middle mouse button. I don't recommend this, you should really just have a 3-button mouse. Leave Continuous Grab and Release Confirms on. I'll explain why and what these do in the next video. The rest of this section is useful if you're using other input devices like a drawing tablet. Navigation. Here's where you can change the way your camera orbits around the scene in the viewport, how zoom controls work, and change settings for fly and walk navigation, which, again, we'll get into in a later video. Key map. If you don't like the initial input preferences you set the first time you open Blender, you can change them here. If you scroll down, you can change any and all keyboard shortcuts, but I highly recommend you just learn the defaults. System. This is where you select which devices to use for rendering. Save and load. I'd leave most of these on their default values, but you should know about save versions and autosave. If autosave is checked, it'll save a temporary autosave file in your system's temp folder every 2 minutes, or as often as you tell it to here. If Blender crashes or you accidentally quit without saving, you can access this file by clicking File, Recover, Autosave. Save versions creates a duplicate of your file in its previously saved state in the same folder. It'll have the same file name except the version number will be added to the end of the .blend extension. Auto-run Python scripts is something I highly recommend you leave off. Blender runs Python code for a variety of things. For instance, a lot of complex character rigs will use Python scripts to make the rig more user-friendly. But it would also be very easy for someone who knows how to hide malicious code in a script like that. If auto-run is on, that code will simply run, and you won't even know it until it's too late. Unchecking this box will bring up a warning message anytime a script tries to run, and then you can decide on a case-by-case basis whether to trust it. File paths lets you specify where different types of files and resources are stored. This is another section I recommend just leaving alone. And that's it. So I know it's been like 15 minutes already and we still haven't actually done anything, but it took me years to get to know my way around Blender as well as you do now. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. The fun part is next.